customer. Oh, no, that's going to need a queue. And that will run through the database and display the details. But for example, if I made a mistake, if I misspelt one of these and then tried to run it, it will give you, what I love about this, if it doesn't just say error something something, it actually marks where the error in the line is. If you've ever done really long SQL injections, it sucks when they say line 48 has an error in it and you're going through 150 characters trying to figure out where it is. This actually marks like, no, this customer, it doesn't fit, something's wrong. So I found that to be very helpful.
Oh, nice.
And then, so from there, I had a separate window here where I could play with the terminal, and then I opened up my tables, and I would just input them all individually, one at a time, and then it would pop errors if any of them were written poorly. And then after I did the create tables, I did the inserts, which I did one at a time. And yeah. So I think I kind of skipped ahead a little bit there. But for the instructions, the system needs to be able to track multiple users. The speakers should be tracked separately from the conference because one speaker will speak at multiple conferences. Individual sessions of conference, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, need not be tracked, rather simply the year and the month. I actually found it was easier when you're just building the database to go ahead and, in the stretch challenges, it'll talk about adding Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon functionality. I found it easier to just go ahead and do that right when you're building the database rather than have to go in after the fact and alter data. You need not account for the fact that some speakers will speak multiple times, but assume that a note can be tied to a speaker in conference. I found that if you actually, I actually expanded my database to include a spot for the individual talks. So whenever a user is adding a note, they are, let's see, where did I add that in? Oh, I think it's up here. Is it in my inserts? There it is, talk title. That's under speaker. Okay, this is an old one. How'd that happen? Okay, I'll have to fix that. I'll have to fix that later. But you add in a talk title. Which should just be another varchar. So now each of your speakers can be tracked basically. So what? Okay. Okay, and multiple notes can be added by the same user about a single conference talk, which this will allow. It's assigning a note ID to every individual note, and then you'll be deciding which customer ID, conference speaker it all connects to. Yeah, so that should take care of that. The core requirements: design your database visually. First step is to put together a design for the database. I already did a sketch. You might have already thrown it away, but I can go grab it if I need to. And that's just, I could even do that in like Paint.
Sure. So I think for those of us who are kind of new to databases like me, just kind of understanding how they're put together would be really helpful. Just you know, how you organize your data in tables. So
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let's just. That's going to get really tedious really fast. I'm trying to find a good way to display this. Okay, so you have your users table. And I like to start, you can build a database a number of different ways, but I like to start with the users because they're the people that are going to be inputting data. So your users, actually if I slide this over, there we go, perfect. Okay, so I have a customer table, and in that table, I'm going to need, the way that you'll organize the data is you'll have an ID, which tracks your individual customers. And then I've got first name, last name. Okay, so for those, I get the feeling at least one of us isn't is new to databases, does primary key mean anything to you, or is that gibberish?
I just in the teacher video, I learned about it, and it sounds like it's supposed to be a unique key that represents a piece of data, a row of data in the database. So,
yeah, it's an identifier for every insertion into that table. So in this case, whenever we add a new customer with a new first name and a new last name, they will automatically get a new ID number. And then when the database is talking, you'll be talking in terms of the ID number, not the name. Okay, why can't I don't usually write on, okay. So for example, when I was building the conferences, you'll have a conference ID. And then just to speed things up, you'll have a date, and then you'll have a session. And you build these separate tables. I'm inputting all the information separately, but in the note table, it'll all come together and it'll all make a little more sense after that. This is primary key. And then here we'll have speaker, which has a speaker ID.
So is the ID usually like a number, like an integer, or?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And last but not least, talk. Okay. So the last piece de resistance is that each ID is going to be a primary key, and then it's all going to come together here on the note section. That's going to have a note ID, which is just going to be an integer. And then the note itself, which is just going to be text. And then you'll have a customer ID, so that it's tracking the individual user that's adding in data. Conference ID, which will track which conference they're coming from. Speaker ID. And that'll do it. Okay. So these puppies here are foreign keys. And the trick here is that the reason we built the database in this order is because the database is going to be looking for these foreign keys at these earlier instances. So, Mr. Su, this will work. Okay. So this primary key, customer ID, is being transferred down here in the notes section. And then this conference ID, I should probably pick a different color, is being automatically shuffled down there. And then the speaker is coming down here. So the thing with foreign keys is you have to build the primary key first so that the information is cascading down almost like a hierarchy, kind of like a waterfall. Mm-hmm. All the initial information has to go into the top here before the next bits that start combining information can be organized. Clear as mud?
Yes, it's starting to come together. I mean, you know, so foreign keys, they are, the note is referencing those three. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when the note is looking to add in information, if I want to make my very first note, I'm going to, I can use the insert actually. My very first note is right here. So my very first note, I'm adding in the note ID, and it's just one, since it's the first note that the system has ever recorded. I've got the text that I wrote for the note, and then my customer ID is 1, conference ID is 1, speaker ID is 1. This allows me to, from the user point, if we were working through a website or something, all that information would just be recorded as I log in as myself, as I'm looking at certain speakers. But it has to be accessed through these previous tables that have already been set up with that data.
All right.
So if I were to try and input into the notes table before I even made the speaker table, well, that would really screw things up. It would make it very difficult to add in speakers later on because, yeah, this whole waterfall of information wouldn't happen. That would be a problem. This also makes it easier when you're looking up data, because if I want to look at like the first speaker of the day, I would just look up ID 1 and it would give me the information for that person. So for example, let's see. So I'm going to select everything from my note table and run it. There we go. So these are all, my speakers are just by ID. I mean, if you wanted to build a database such that you were using, that this was all their names instead of numbers, you could technically do that. You would just be creating, you would be addressing the foreign key to these additional points. So for example, I have a foreign key constraint for customer ID. And with your foreign keys, they want to know which ID it's connecting to, your base ID. And then you will refer it to a primary key. And it's going to go by table and then by column. So if I wanted to, instead of using customer ID, use the customer's first name, I could just retype this as customer first name, and then they would always connect back to that customer first name instead of the ID when you're inputting that information. Let's see, some of the tricky things. I initially learned this for MySQL, which is a little different. The command structure is a little different. So I actually had to look up the Postgre syntax. For example, when you're marking that your IDs are integers, in SQL it was just number. But in this one they use a different syntax, so I had to go through and find that and update all of my inquiries to include that. Let's see if I can show you some of the, there we go. Yeah, this is an assignment from 225 that I saved. This is using SQL, so you see I use number instead of integer. But this is an example of actually a retail store that we made for a lab. So at least we're getting the simpler version, because this was like the very first assignment was a big wall of this.
That's and what class was that?
This was 225.
225, yeah. That's
yeah. The tutorial to teach you how to use the program was the owner's manual for the program. And I had never looked at databases ever previously. It was not fun.
Maybe this class will kind of help me when I go into that other class.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. This class will help you so much. Oh, I really wish I'd have done this in reverse, because, yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, the one annoying thing about Postgre is I haven't found a way to actually see the database. So, for example, I don't think my computer crashed earlier this weekend, and I've been trying to reinstall everything, but I don't think I've gotten my MyAdmin reinstalled yet. No, dang it. There's another database server that will actually show you all of the individual tables and how they all interconnect in one visual image, and I missed that. I mean, technically what they're wanting to teach you to do is operate from a terminal, which is what Postgre will do, and you can tell it to display stuff, but it bugs me when I can't see the whole picture, because right here you can only see whatever you can select it to display.
9 hours ahead of us. Saturday. Minus 9 hours from that. So of course. Actually, so I guess it would be Friday. Saturday's midnight.
Trying to think of any other quirks that are important. Some interesting differences with the varchar. That is usually used with names because it has a text limit. This will limit the input to 255 digits or characters.
Is there a specific reason why you chose 255, or is that just?
It's just standard. Whenever I look at, freak out of that.
Because it's the 8-bit limit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
It's
And then,
256, so
yeah, so
like
they'll
when
use
we did
that.
plus plus with the that I guess.
Yeah. But for note, for example, because I don't know how long a person's note is going to be, you just input that as text, and that doesn't have a maximum size. So if someone was to write a whole paragraph, they could input it as text.
So text is another data type there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I apparently missed that. How did you get the database set up on Postgre or whatever it is?
I'll go ahead and log out and I can walk you through it. So first you're going to want to, I have to scroll down to Postgre, and then I have to log in as an administrator. If I try to log in regularly, it won't work. It'll tell me that it can't access the database. When you first installed Postgre, it asked you to decide on a password. It may ask you for that when you first log in.
Yeah, did that at least, but
That didn't sound promising.
that was just the UAC kicking in. I don't have a headset on, so nope.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you logging into Postgre now?
It's trying to.
Okay.
Nope, that wasn't it. The problem of having 20 tabs.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Okay, I noticed that you have these things. You have your text in an SQL file. Is that the standard?
Yeah, if you're going to be manipulating a database in any way, it will be in an SQL file. That's the structured query language. Mm-hmm. That's why it has this SQL tab here. Mm-hmm. It's actually, you'll notice this is what I would type into terminal in order to create a new database. Okay. So when I went up here and click add new database, it transferred that into SQL language for me.
And some people just call it SQL.
Yep. Okay. So when you log into your Heroku and you log into Postgre through Heroku, mm-hmm. it's going to be looking for the SQL language.
Okay.
When you're adding in commands and stuff.
So basically, on the command line, you'd just be typing out all of that, and
correct.
It'd be the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll notice that they use the page break, like a line break, all throughout this. That's not for the computer. That's for the coder. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I were to take all this and where'd it go? Expand it. There we go. Create script. Okay. If I were to compress all of this this is the way the computer reads the command.
Mm-hmm.
The computer would have absolutely no problem going through this as long as you had the right space so that none of the commands were running together.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
But what coders will do is they will organize it like this to help with
Readability.
formatting errors. Yeah, readability and stuff. So for example, I got in the habit of leaving a comma right at the start of each one of my commands just because I kept forgetting to put them on the tail end.
Mm.
Mm.
I like them on the end, but that's me.
Yeah, it's just, 225, that was, every single one of them. Everywhere. Commas
Okay,
everywhere.
I think I got this PG admin thing running. It keeps whining about versions, but apparently even installing the new one doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I haven't even. Once I got it working, I was like, no, I'm not changing anything. I've been through enough. Took way too long to get this thing set up. Anyway, so when you'll just open a new database by going to the database icon under Postgre, right-click, and then create database, and that will give you the option to pick the name and the owner and that kind of stuff.
Nice. So I'm just kind of going through your code and just looking at things that are unfamiliar to me.
Sure.
So I noticed the not null. What does that signify?
Not null means that
It has to have a thing.
it should always have something in it.
Okay, so it's like a required.
It's required to have something in it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
if
when the form says you have to fill out your name.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So for example, the value that I'm submitting in notes for myself is 01. If I were to just leave that blank, that's a null.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be very bad for the tables because it can't do anything with that. It will take that ID and put it into a sequential order, and null doesn't fit in the sequential order. And then if you wire it so that it doesn't raise an error, then you'll end up with your foreign keys going back to your primary keys trying to access null, and then it gets much worse.
So who do we say is the owner? Postgres or Postgre or what?
I guess that's up to you. I just went with Postgres just because that's the system that I'm using, and it reminds me which syntax I have to shoot for, because Postgre has a slightly different language syntax than some of the other systems I've used.
Mm.
But, I mean, if you wanted to, you can change the name of to the best of my knowledge, you can change the name of the owner, but I haven't tinkered with it a lot, so don't quote me on that.
It just gives me a list, and I guess it's some PG stat scans and stuff.
Just stick with Postgres.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Team. What is this? What week is this for?
Say what? Oh, this is 04? Yeah. Team activity 4.
Everything should be fine. I don't have to mess with the tabs or what?
You're asking me if you need to change the tabs?
The other tabs besides the general on create when you set it up?
Yeah, these other tabs under conference notes, that's just...
Not there. 1 second.
Okay. Do you want to switch so you can share your screen?
Yeah, I don't use Zoom much. Where to go? No, that's not it. The tabs on this thing.
Oh, yeah. I did not touch definition, security, parameters. Just as the new database. Yeah, you got your owner, conference notes, perfect. Okay. There you go. All right, so if you go to the SQL tab in the main viewer, there you go. Yeah. So that is the SQL command that it used to initialize your database.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to add in more SQL yourself, go up to Object, upper left. It's in the main menu. There you go. Create script. Left, one more column. Down 4 more. It goes create, refresh, delete, drop, connect database, create script. That's what you want.
Why would that not be in the rest of the create menu?
I do not know. That is an excellent question.
See why I was confused.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Someone go punch their phone.
End it permanently. All right, so you can go ahead and this is the SQL code that it's already run, which is to create the database. You can go, this is just sitting in the terminal. It's already been run. So you can delete all this without any issue. And from here, you can start inserting the commands to create tables and then to insert data. This is a terminal that you'll use to connect with the database.
And does this save them as files, or do I have to do that myself?
It will save
the database.
It will save it in the SQL language on the Postgres database that's on your local server. This isn't what you will turn into class. This is a buffer you can use for trial and error and make sure it's all running before you push it up to Heroku.
That's what I'm saying. It will save the SQL for me to push to Heroku. Mm-hmm. So we got a notes table, users.
It also won't like it if you try to create a table titled users. User is usually used from a coding standpoint to identify different people that are in charge of coding different parts of their project.
Yeah, I know, but accounts, whatever.
That was strange. I tried to create user and then it didn't let me. So
that's why I went with
that's
custom.
why. Okay.
Yep. It has a very specific syntax, and if you breach that, it will punch you in the face for it.
Sometimes I wish it would, because then it'd be more obvious.
Right? Yeah.
Ow. You already designed it visually, I assume?
Mm-hmm.
By visually, I just wrote it out on a piece of scratch paper.
Yeah, I know you put it in Paint.
Basically what I wrote up on my Paint. I don't think we have to turn in the visual database.
Well, I should still
know
what we need, what you use to organize your thoughts.
Yeah. For team activities, you don't have to turn anything in, I don't think. Just
build the stupid thing out.
Yeah. Build the stupid thing. Send them the links.
Just because I feel
class would actually be a really good one for this particular assignment. Yeah.
What did you say?
I was just agreeing with your choice. UML class is what you're after.
Class? I thought we were after the database sheet.
The style of VCO professional that you're using, UML class style that you are picking from your options, that's a really good choice for looking at where information is going in the database.
It's been a while since I've messed with UML, so.
That's all right.
Well, where's yours again? I might as well transcribe it. Something we can all use.
You want me to share my screen again?
Yeah, we should be able to both do it, shouldn't we? Or is it just one at a time thing on Zoom?
I think it's one at a time, if I'm not mistaken.
Get your act together, Zoom.
Yeah, you'll have to cancel first before. Yeah, I cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing.
Anyone want to go use Discord?
Okay, where's my Paint? There we go. Okay, so this is basically what I did.
Did you save that, or is it just sitting there?
It's just sitting there. I can save it.
And then just send it to us and yada yada.
All right.
And then I'll feel like making a proper chart out of it and send it to everybody else. There's a shared file button on this thing, right?
I think I can send in attachments. Okay, so
I know Slack will take it if it won't do it in Zoom.
Zoom chat. Come on. That's annoying. Okay. I'm going to bring this back down. Okay.
Yeah, Slack will take it if Zoom's not going to.
Perfect.
I told you I hate Zoom.
I got that distinct impression. Where'd it go? Come on. Put it in the wrong file? No. Okay. Where'd it go?
Probably ended up in your pictures folder.
Oh, wrong class. There we go. There we go. Okay, so you can use that as a sketch and then make a much prettier looking
sketch.
sketch. Yeah, that. Let's see, I think I made sure top title, last name, 3 there, 3 there, 3 there. Yes, this does have all of the constraints, keys, and columns that I was using.
Yeah.
Seth, could you one more time go over the constraints and how you set those? Because I know you went over, but I think I didn't catch everything that you said.
Yeah, not a problem. Mm-hmm. So a constraint basically tells the system to limit the input in some way. That's the basis of a constraint. So for example, I could take the input for a name and put a constraint on it that it could not have a number in it, for example. And then it would watch for if the number actually popped into the system and stuff. But what we're specifically looking at is using constraints to control where the information flows in this document. So the primary key constraint is used to make sure that every time a new customer shows up, they get their very own customer ID.
Yeah.
And then all the information they're connected to is tied into that ID. So if I were to go over to Postgre, let's see.
The other constraints in that note table are useful for grabbing the info from the other tables.
Yeah.
You don't have to fill it out every darn time.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, it's setting up a relationship more than anything else.
Oh, there we go. That's my bad. There, now I should be able to. Come on. I don't know why it's not letting me go into SQL yet. Contents notes. There we go. Create script. Perfect. All right. So for example, if I go select everything from customer, run it. There. So that's my customer ID of 1, my first name, my last name. Every additional user would have, the next one would have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then all their information is then tied on that row to that customer ID.
One thing about that I've noticed is when you're making actual databases, you generally want to inflate the first actual data to 1001 for any extra things you need to add.
So start off the customer ID at 1,000 and then count up from there.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed in my other database classes. Like you set the extra 1,000 cells just in case you need to add things as an admin.
Okay.
And where settings can go and stuff. It's just a best practice rule I've noticed people use.
Cool. I don't know how to do that, but
I'm saying you have to do it right now, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Been a while since I had to do that class.
Yeah. I
But every database we had to make for that class started at 1001, except for like the first 5 rows, but that was for setting up admin controls.
Right.
Okay, and you set the constraint to PK customer, so primary key customer, and
Exactly.
is that so? Is that going to be referenced that name, that PK customer, anywhere? Is that or is it just?
It's only referenced within the internal table.
Yeah.
It's only referenced within that table just to make sure it doesn't get messed up with or duplicated.
Yeah, this is more for your benefit because you can name the constraint so that you know what that particular constraint is for. So, like, I can already read this and see that that is the primary key that's coming out of the customer ID, but it's easier to read if you can actually name the sucker.
The constraint in that case is making sure that it never gets duplicated or anything else, and isn't null.
Yep.
Okay, and then you got primary key, then you got foreign keys, right, for the other 3 there down there.
Yeah, those are double checking with the other tables to pull the data.
Mm-hmm.
So for that customer ID one, it goes and checks the customer table to fill in to attach that customer to that note.
All right, and then that makes sense with the references there. Yeah, the customer and then the customer ID from that table. So
correct. Yep.
Do we need the insert data for anything, or is that something else?
Insert data is for the stretch portion of the assignment.
Oh.
Because let's see, stretch challenge. The first one is adding in Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon functionality, and then create your database at Heroku using one of your accounts and practice inserting some data from the last general conference. Insert at least 3 talks and at least 2 notes per talk. So what I did on my insert table, first I had to insert myself, a customer. Then I have 2 conferences, one for morning and one for afternoon. And then I have, let's see, that's 3. I went and did 3 speakers and then 2 talks per speaker.
I remember that's the shorthand for inserting. You can do values and notes as separate keys, not keys, entries.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, like you can say this entry is this one and not just do it in one lump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're doing kind of the shorthand thing.
Yeah, there was really, shorthand was the only way to survive when you're dealing with this.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying, I know there's a way to insert where you say the note, you say the variable and then the data for the variable instead of commas and doing it and making sure you don't miss track.
Yeah.
When is the way you're doing it, you have to make sure you do it in order. There's one way to do it like that without making sure it's in order by just double checking names.
Yeah, and you could do this one at a time too if you wanted to. It would just take longer. So for example, if I wanted to say just in customer ID, insert the value 1, then it would add 1 into the customer ID slot, but it wouldn't add in anything else in that row.
Yeah.
And I noticed also a syntax where you don't even include the stuff in parentheses and it still lets you insert. Is that probably
or are you looking at that?
Yeah, I have seen a shorthand that does that. The computer already knows which column goes where. So technically, depending on the syntax, I don't know if Postgre I don't know if that would work in Postgre or not. But some systems do. But I write this out just so that I can go through one at a time and make sure I got it all right.
Oh, yeah, that's how you do it. If you don't have anything in parentheses, you have to do it in order. But if you don't have things, if you do have in parentheses, you can technically have the last name before the first name if you do it this way.
Correct.
Yeah.
The way without parentheses means you have to do it in order.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, that makes this seems like yes, the best way to do it. Yeah, best practice. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mind sending us copies of that so we can tweak them, or should we just write our own?
It's up to you guys. I think last week we had everyone write their own.
Oh.
Or you can just print screen it.
So my brain's fried, which is not fun. I'll be back in a minute.
All right. Okay. For your tweaking pleasure, let's see if I can upload to both of them at once. Or okay. And I guess I will go ahead and try to upload this to Heroku and see if it goes through.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I got this working yesterday, but it took more time than I ever want to think about. So I copied down the, okay, Heroku PGC. All right.
So are there any good commands to know? I know that I learned the \DT for displaying your tables.
That's a good one.
Any other useful commands that you use a lot in the command line? Or
I'm still figuring out the command line. I've rarely used it in my other classes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have now accessed Git Bash as an administrator, and let's see if it will now let me do my thing. Okay. Well, that's lovely. It wasn't doing that yesterday. Okay, let's try something else.
Oh, yeah, that was in that video on the
Yeah, we'll try this.
Slack.
Heroku still being a pain?
Yeah. I think it's, I'm trying to remember, because with this setup, you're logging into the test database that has the name and user of Postgres. Just trying to remember which one's the name and which one's the user. Come on. I so do not care.
Is this the YouTube you linked earlier?
Yes, it's the user and then the database name. Okay. So username is Postgres, and then for my database, come on, conference notes. Okay. That should do it.
Password.
Yep. Good. Okay, I'm in. Whew, I think.
Yay. So then
Alright,
you have
so-
to dump your script at it.
Yep. And I've already run this script through my local database, so I know that it works.
Yeah. So having new lines won't mess that up, will it?
Adding what?
Having new lines won't mess up that, will it? Because
Mhm.
sometimes the command prompt doesn't like you using enter even in copy pasting.
Actually, I had to look up the specific command for copy and paste into Git Bash. Hold down Shift and Insert instead of copy and C or Control and C.
Because otherwise it'll just hit new command on every line and whine.
Error. Relation note already exists. I don't know.
You didn't drop your table.
What do you mean?
You have to drop your tables if you're running the script fresh.
I don't understand.
The tables already exist in Heroku, right?
I know the tables already exist in my local server. I don't think they've automatically been pushed up to Heroku, but we can find out real quick.
If the tables exist, you got to drop them before you do all this create stuff again.
Oh.
Drop tables.
Isn't this just accessing your local data, or?
It might be.
Oh, crap, it might be. Wait, no. Okay. All right, where'd my Slack go? Because I was talking this over with the instructor. Okay, there we go. Crap.
You did hook up to local?
I did hook up to local. So, okay, I just got to try and figure out how I beat this blasted thing. Okay, maybe. Oh, all right, I think I figured it out. All right, bear with me. I have to find my way back.
Should be ... just to go back up. CD ... I think.
Okay, cool. Exchange. Okay, now we should be able to make this thing work. No, that's the wrong one. One second. And then this is the one that was working. Heroku PGP is
Do you mind sending us?
There we go.
that image?
What do you need?
Do you mind sending us that image of the one that you got working?
Yeah, you got
I
it.
assume we have to replace that with our app name.
This
Your
Parent
This-
part.
just go into your local, your what is it, repository? Your repository that's connected to Roku.
What's with the transparent part?
That is the name of the database that you created on Heroku.
No, I haven't done that yet. Anyways, yeah, do your scripts.
and then you need runtime 3. There we go. Okay, and here's what logging in should look like. So I had to log in through my Windows command line as an administrator in order to get all of this working.
Okay. Now let's see if your script will behave.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I have to actually create. No, it says you have to create your own database. So in that case, then I can actually go to. That should
That's
work,
what it's good for.
right? That should give me my owner conference notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Control insert, right?
Shift.
Yeah.
Shift insert for the command line. I don't know why. Okay,
So it doesn't try and do a command on every return.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's why.
All right. So
That didn't work.
Huh?
That didn't work.
I haven't hit go yet.
Then where'd the error come from?
Database does not exist. Okay, let's try.
And above that it says permission denied to create database.
I think in Postgres, everything has been created. I read it somewhere. Like we don't have to create new one. We just use the one that is already there.
Okay, well, we can test out that theory real quick. It's already been set up, then
Broke again. No, wait.
oh geez.
That doesn't sound good.
I hit enter one too many times. Okay, well. Okay. So I haven't added in any data yet, but here is my customer table.
Yay.
So that worked.
So your customer table should get you that first set should do stuff.
Yeah, and now I should be able to paste in my inserts. And go. Okay, so now I should be able to, if I do it again, select everything from customer. Make sure to end with that semicolon. And now my data is there.
Yay.
Let's see what the other one, speaker. And there are my speakers. It's all there. That helps. That only took 6 hours of work in the last 3 days.
Should have taken 20
Not
minutes.
counting this video. Ugh. Okay.
We actually know what we're doing. It should only take 20 minutes.
Right? Yes. Getting them all working is the key part of Suckage.
Uh,
All right, let's see. So turning this in, met with my team. Yes. The entire activity.
doing it right now, huh?
Yes. Work to solve the problem for at least 1 hour. In 3 minutes, that will be a yes.
Yes.
All the yeses.
Completed everything. Completed everything.
You didn't get that third requirement.
Oh, crap. Thank you. Apparently I didn't. Thoughtfully compared my code and my approach with the instructors. Oops.
Okay.
Oh, just tip
that.
yes, because who cares?
Right. Okay. So your SQL. Create the
That's just for the
database.
requirements, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just optional. This is how I did it.
I mean, that doesn't have the stretch goals in it, it looks like.
No.
Yeah, they just have the required stuff in there, I think.
Yeah. It's just the baseline, the what do they call it? Core requirements. Yeah. So it doesn't have anything for the inserts or anything like that. It's just basic table creation. I do like. It looks like he's making individual public.user. I'm not sure what kind of. Or is he specifying that it's a public database? I'm not sure what that's
You'll
all
have to
about.
ask him. I don't know what that means. Well, probably not him, because I doubt he wrote it.
Yeah. Did you notice that this week? That kind of.
It's the way all this stupid online adjunct classes go.
Yeah.
It has actually nothing with the curriculum.
Okay.
One time
Alright.
I had a teacher that didn't tell me how to do anything, but yeah, he didn't do anything. We had to make a snake game in Java. He didn't say a word the entire semester.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Fun. Okay. Anyway, so that's done.
I think So does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to throw out to Seth or
There's
others?
something already covered how to make the database in Heroku because I haven't done that yet. Or is
How
that part of
to
the reading?
make the database in Heroku.
Is that part of the reading?
In
It
the
should,
preparation.
yes, it
Yeah, the
should be
preparation.
already part of
It'll
it.
walk you through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll show you the page. Just gotta hop back over.
So once Seth is going through this, I didn't clearly understand how you copied from your ID and then I guess you paste it in command line. Did you paste your codes right there, or how did you get to display your table on the command line?
How did I put all this information onto the command line?
Yeah.
I just
I can see that you selected from your
Control A
ID
to highlight everything, Control C to copy everything. But when you get to the command line, you have to use Shift and Insert instead of Control and C to paste everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you hit Enter, it will not run what you're writing until you have the semicolon at the end. Because that tells you that you're ending the statement.
Oh, awesome.
So, for example, if I were to scroll back down here to the bottom, all right, let's say I write
You might have saw when he hit Enter before hitting the semicolon.
See how I've hit Enter 3 times and it hasn't run anything yet?
Which I'm going to assume is the equals and the dash signs is how it's differentiating that.
Okay.
Anyone else seeing that?
The equal and the dash signs?
Right after database?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, right in here. Yeah, so equals is the start of your command. And then the dashes let you know that that command hasn't been closed yet. It's waiting for that semicolon.
I notice when you're typing in, like if you put an open parentheses, then an open parentheses appears in place of the equals. Like if you're creating a table and then
Oh, you mean when I was typing?
Like if you're just doing it one line by one line, and then you have create table whatever, then you have an open parentheses, then it will show an open parentheses there on the instead of an equals.
It does, huh?
Yeah.
Didn't see that either.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. That's cool. All right, that's more helpful than that's more help than I was expecting to get in this class.
Yep.
All right, so these are the instructions for making the database at Heroku, which is why I didn't have to actually make the database myself, and could just import directly into it with the creating tables and importing data. This is theoretically, it should only be 4 steps.
That's not.
That's why everyone was having problems.
Syntax is wrong, right?
Something is wrong. There's a syntax wrong in the Git Bash platform that won't run that.
So use that on Windows command prompt. Then
run as administrator.
That's where I've been running 95% of my Gits.
Yeah, run as administrator from the Windows command line, and it'll work. Or for me, it worked. That's what it took to get it to work for me.
And I also had to set my path variables in Windows. So.
Oh yeah, that was helpful too. Does everyone know how to do that?
I think I already have Heroku set up for that, but not really. I usually just let it automatically get done.
Yeah, let me just
That's where it's
walk you
leading?
through it. If you search path, you'll get these.
Environment variables is what it's looking for. And then you
Yeah,
have to,
so down here in path is where you would play.
on the variable, wait, how do you assign what you, okay,
So for example, if I want to edit my own user variables, do want to go with the system variables. But for example, if I want to edit my user variables,
okay, that's how you do that.
yeah,
That just allows you to shortcut directly there pretty much.
Yeah, it tells the computer where to look when you're inserting commands.
Okay.
So you tell it, adelante, it's like, well, I don't know that word. Where do I look to figure out what that means? And you're giving it a long list of places to look.
Instead of having to go to the file every day time.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone want to help me with the shopping cart from last week? Well, I wasn't able to get that finished.
Oh, wow. That was a whole week ago. It feels like so much longer.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It wasn't even a week ago. It was 4 days ago.
Right? Okay, let me see where I put that.
And the weirdest part that threw me was doing it without a database.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in Ponder or whatever.
No, it's down in because I've been running those through XAMPP.
XAMPP?
Yeah.
You have to. And I know they said not to use Dreamweaver, but I write it from scratch anyways in there, so they can't tell.
Let me clear some of this out.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if I don't use the insert stuff in the WYSIWYG part of Dreamweaver much.
Mm-hmm.
XAMPP, you're a lifesaver.
Yeah, this thing makes your life so much easier. You can actually play with this stuff and try it out live.
Well, as live as you can get without it being live.
Yes.
Except your browser likes to whine every darn time.
Mm-hmm. What happened here? Okay. Let's try.
I don't know how to get certificates for that stuff, so.
There it is.
What editor is that?
Brackets.
Never heard of it.
Something I picked up in my front-end web development class.
I've just been using Visual Studio Code and I'm Notepad.
That works too. I do like this because it color codes all of the everything, so it's easier for problem solving.
It does the what?
It color codes. So all of my classes.
The syntax highlighting. That's what Visual Studio Code and Notepad++ do.
Perfect. Then it does the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, so for the store, I have that when you do the stretch assignment, it's all going to be in PHP. So you might as well start with it all in PHP.
That was the plan.
Yep. That'll save you a step because I ended up writing it all out in HTML and then finding out, wait, come on. Then you have to overhaul it. You want to make sure to start the session.
Oh, that's what that is?
That's what that is. You're telling PHP that this is not going to be just HTML. You're waking it up to import any session variables
and what have you to carry through the.
Yeah.
That's the button I couldn't find.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And then that's what stores your variables, because I was about to start doing it in JavaScript.
Oh, geez. I don't think, that would have gotten into complicated things with the teacher.
That one I know how to set up session checks and stuff.
Right. So you'll have your browse. I selected 3 items, went to my shopping cart with these 3 items. And you'll want to enable it so that you can remove some of those items.
And you only have it doing total when you hit checkout?
Correct. When I hit checkout, then it does my contact information, confirm the purchase, voila.
Oh, you don't actually have it doing the total math anywhere? Just what you had selected?
Nope. It is, I think it's earlier in the assignment. You didn't have to total up the prices or anything. It was just the focus of the assignment is to make sure that you are conveying the information across pages in one session.
Yeah, so the sessions, but it's that one. Yeah, being swamped with extensions because you had to move during freaking finals. Not fun.
Oh, yeah, not fun. Sure.
And seeing as I didn't even realize this thing had groups, I completely missed last week's
Gotcha.
team thing. So
Okay.
you don't have to if you don't want to, but yeah, if anyone wants to help with that later, I won't say no.
Sure. Yeah. Or contact me over Slack if you run into specific issues.
Yeah, which one was that again?
This is the shopping cart. This is O3
No, not
Crew.
that one. The other shopping cart.
The Heroku database. Getting that set
Whatever
up.
the team thing was for last week
Oh, the team thing for last week.
was that form.
Right. Where was that?
Okay, so the value is the important thing. The ID and the value are the important thing, I guess, for the shopping cart.
Yeah, for your shopping cart.
The value
Alright.
and the ID I need to make sure that item gets pulled again the next session.
Yeah. So for example, when I go to my cart, no, that's not it. There we go. View cart. There it is. Okay. So view cart is pulling the orders information from the browse page and using that to decide which one of these products gets displayed.
Okay, so you did not make a separate project folder.
No, I did not. I just gave each one a specific name and ID.
Because I was planning on putting my projects in a separate file, my products in a separate file.
Hey, if you can get it